A 5-year-old boy sits at a harpsichord in Salzburg, 1761, composing music that will still be performed 250 years later. By age 6, he's touring European courts. By 35, he's dead in an unmarked grave. The question isn't whether Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was a genius. It's how someone who died, broke and forgotten, became the most performed classical composer in history. The story starts in a city that should have crushed him. Salzburg in the 1750s was a backwater. Nestled in the Alps between Bavaria and Austria, it was ruled by a prince archbishop who governed both the spiritual and political lives of its 16,000 residents. The city existed to serve the church and the nobility. Musicians were servants, ranked somewhere between cooks and footmen. They wore livery. They ate with the staff. They composed on command. Into this rigid world, on January 27, 1756, Anna Maria Mozart gave birth to her 7th child. She'd already buried 5 of them. Infant mortality in the 18th century was brutal. Half of all children died before age 5. Anna Maria had every reason to expect this baby would follow his siblings to the grave. His father had other plans. Leopold Mozart was a court musician, a violinist and composer of modest talent who'd published a violin instruction manual the same year Wolfgang was born. The manual would become famous. Leopold never would. He recognized this limitation in himself, which made him notice something extraordinary in his children. Maria Anna, called Nannel, was 5 years older than Wolfgang. Leopold had been teaching her harpsichord, and she showed real ability. But when 3-year-old Wolfgang started climbing onto the instrument after her lessons, picking out thirds and sixths, playing back melodies he'd only heard once, Leopold saw something that transcended talent. This was different. By age 4, Wolfgang was composing short pieces. Leopold would write them down, since Wolfgang couldn't yet write music notation himself. The boy would sit at the keyboard, work out melodies and harmonies in his head, then play them. Once, perfectly. When Leopold asked him to play it again to verify what he'd heard, Wolfgang would play it again. Exactly the same, note for note. Most children that age struggle to speak in complete sentences. Wolfgang was thinking in 4-part harmony. Leopold made a decision that would define both their lives. He would take his children on tour. He would present them to the courts of Europe as prodigies, as living miracles, as proof of divine favour. He would make them famous, and he would make money doing it. The first tour was modest. In 1762, when Wolfgang was 6 and Nannel 11, Leopold took them to Munich for 3 weeks. The Elector of Bavaria was impressed enough to pay them. Encouraged, Leopold aimed higher. In September, they travelled to Vienna. The Austrian capital was everything Salzburg wasn't. It had 175,000 people. It was the seat of the Holy Roman Empire. The Habsburg court glittered with wealth and power. If you could impress Vienna, you could impress anyone. Wolfgang impressed Vienna. The 6-year-old performed at the Imperial Palace for Empress Maria Theresa and her family. He played harpsichord blindfolded. He played with a cloth covering the keys. He sight-read pieces he'd never seen before. He improvised fugues on themes the courtiers suggested. When he finished, he climbed into the Empress's lap. The court was enchanted. Here was a child who combined impossible talent with complete lack of pretension. He wasn't performing, he was playing. The difference mattered. Audiences didn't just admire Wolfgang, they loved him. The Empress gave them money and fine clothes. Other nobles followed her lead. For 3 weeks, the Mozart children were the sensation of Vienna. They performed at multiple palaces, collected gifts and fees, and established something crucial: proof of concept. This could work. Leopold returned to Salzburg, already planning the next tour. Not Munich this time. Not Vienna. This time, he would take his children to the cultural centre of Europe. They would go to Paris. The journey began in June 1763. Wolfgang was 7. The trip would last 3.5 years. They travelled by coach, stopping at every significant court along the way. Mannheim, Frankfurt, Brussels, Paris. At each stop, Leopold arranged performances, sometimes in palaces, sometimes in public concerts, sometimes in private homes of the wealthy. The pattern was always the same. Wolfgang would amaze the audience with his abilities, they would shower him with praise and money, and Leopold would move on to the next city. Paris received them well. They performed at Versailles for King Louis XV. Wolfgang played for Madame de Pompadour, the king's famous mistress. He charmed the French nobility with the same ease he'd charmed the Austrians. The French called him Le Petit Mozart, and he became a fixture in the salons of Paris for 5 months. But Paris was just a waypoint. Leopold had a bigger target, London. They arrived in April 1764. England was different from the continent in ways that mattered to musicians. The aristocracy was wealthy, but the middle class was wealthier. Public concerts were common. Publishers would pay for music. There was money to be made beyond patronage. King George III received them immediately. The royal family was German by origin, and they maintained strong connections to German culture. The king was an amateur musician himself. When 8-year-old Wolfgang sat at the harpsichord and demonstrated his ability to sight-read anything placed in front of him, to improvise in any style, to play pieces by Bach and Handel from memory. After hearing them once, George III didn't just applaud, he tested him. The king brought out some of Handel's most complex pieces. Wolfgang played them perfectly. The king handed him a bass line and asked him to improvise a melody over it. Wolfgang did it instantly. The queen sang an aria, Wolfgang accompanied her, adjusting his playing to match her interpretation without having seen the music before. This wasn't party trick musicianship. This was mastery. The royal family became patrons. They paid well. More importantly, their endorsement opened every other door in London. For 15 months, the Mozarts lived in London, performing constantly, meeting everyone who mattered in English musical life. One of those meetings changed Wolfgang's trajectory. Johann Christian Bach was living in London. The youngest son of the great Johann Sebastian Bach, he'd become the music master to Queen Charlotte. He was a successful opera composer, a skilled keyboard player, and exactly the kind of mentor an 8-year-old genius needed. Bach took an interest in Wolfgang. They spent time together at the keyboard. Bach would play, Wolfgang would play, they would trade ideas. Bach showed him techniques for writing Italian opera, the dominant musical form of the age. He demonstrated how to write for singers, how to structure dramatic scenes, how to balance melody with theatrical effect. Wolfgang absorbed everything. Years later, when he wrote his own operas, the influence would be unmistakable. But at age 8, he was still learning what opera could be. The London period also produced Wolfgang's first published works. Leopold arranged for 6 keyboard sonatas to be printed. They were marketed as the compositions of an 8-year-old, which helped sales. Novelty was part of the appeal, but the music itself was sophisticated beyond the composer's age. These weren't children's pieces, they were real compositions, showing a grasp of form and harmony that professional composers, twice Wolfgang's age, struggled to achieve. The tour continued. After London came the Netherlands, then a swing back through Paris, then a grueling journey across France and Switzerland, performing in dozens of cities. By the time they returned to Salzburg in November 1766, Wolfgang was 10 years old. He'd spent more than 3 years on the road. He'd also contracted smallpox in the Netherlands and nearly died. That's worth noting. The touring life wasn't glamorous, it was dangerous. Disease killed constantly in the 18th century, and travel increased exposure. Wolfgang survived smallpox, but it left him weakened. The scars on his face would remain for life. Back in Salzburg, Leopold had to confront reality. The tours had been successful financially. They'd established Wolfgang's reputation across Europe, but they'd also cost the family 3 years of normal life, exposed the children to serious health risks, and put Leopold's position as a court musician in jeopardy. The Archbishop of Salzburg was not pleased that his employee had been absent for so long. Leopold needed to secure Wolfgang's future. The boy was no longer a cute child prodigy. He was 10 years old, approaching the age where prodigy stops being charming and starts being threatening. If Wolfgang was going to have a career as a musician, he needed to produce significant work, not party tricks, real compositions. So Wolfgang composed. Between 1767 and 1769, he wrote his first substantial pieces, symphonies, church music, and most ambitiously, his first opera. The opera commission came from Vienna. At age 11, Wolfgang was hired to write a full-length opera buffa, a comic opera for the court theatre. The piece was called La Finta Semplice, and it should have been Wolfgang's breakthrough into professional composition. It wasn't. The production fell apart. Rival composers, threatened by an 11-year-old's success, spread rumours that Leopold had written the music himself. They questioned whether a child could possibly compose at this level without help. The whispers worked. The premiere was cancelled. Wolfgang did get one opera performed that year. Bastien und Bastien was a shorter, simpler work, performed in the private theatre of a Viennese doctor. It was charming. It was successful, but it wasn't the triumph Leopold had planned. The setback revealed something about Wolfgang's position. He was famous, but fame without institutional support was fragile. He needed a permanent position, ideally at a major court. He needed steady income and the resources to compose without constantly hustling for commissions. He needed what his father had in Salzburg, security. But Wolfgang didn't want to be in Salzburg, neither did Leopold. The city was too small, too provincial, too limited. For a musician of Wolfgang's abilities, Salzburg was a prison. They began planning another tour. This time, they would go to Italy. Italy was where opera lived. It was where the greatest composers worked, where the most sophisticated audiences gathered, where musical innovation happened. If Wolfgang could succeed in Italy, he could succeed anywhere. In December 1769, Leopold and Wolfgang left for Italy. Nannerl stayed behind with her mother. She was 18 now, too old to be a prodigy, and Leopold had stopped promoting her career. The world had no interest in adult female musicians unless they were opera singers. Nannerl's performing days were over. Wolfgang's were just beginning. They would spend the next 15 months in Italy, and those months would transform him from a talented child into a serious composer. But before we follow him south across the Alps, we need to understand what he was walking into. Because Italy, in 1770, wasn't just the centre of European music. It was a battlefield where reputation meant everything, and failure meant obscurity. Italy, in 1770, was not a country. It was a collection of competing city-states, each with its own ruling family, its own traditions, and its own musical scene. Venice, Milan, Bologna, Florence, Rome, Naples. Each city jealously guarded its reputation as a centre of culture, and each had its own network of patrons, composers, and critics who could make or destroy a young musician's career. The stakes were higher than anything Wolfgang had faced before. In Germany and France, he'd been a novelty act. In Italy, he would be judged as a composer. The Italians had invented opera. They'd developed most of the forms that dominated European music. They didn't care about party tricks or parlour performances. They wanted substance. Leopold understood this perfectly. He'd spent months preparing Wolfgang, drilling him in Italian musical style, making sure he could compose fluently in the forms that Italian audiences expected. The trip wasn't a vacation, it was a campaign. They crossed the Alps in early December, the journey brutal even by 18th century standards. The mountain passes were icy, the roads were terrible. Wolfgang caught a cold that lasted weeks, but Leopold pushed forward. They had appointments to keep, reputations to build, connections to cultivate. Their first major stop was Verona, where Wolfgang gave a concert that drew enthusiastic reviews. Then Mantua, where he performed before the Austrian governor. Then Milan, the real prize. Milan was ruled by Austria, which meant the court there had connections back to Vienna. Success in Milan could open doors across the empire. The governor of Milan was Count Karl Joseph von Firmian, one of the most powerful men in northern Italy. He was also a music lover with genuine taste and the resources to support composers he believed in. Leopold had written ahead, requesting an audience. Firmian agreed to hear Wolfgang play. Wolfgang didn't just play. He composed on the spot, improvising fugues and variations on themes the Count suggested. He sight-read complex orchestral scores at the keyboard. He demonstrated his ability to write in the Italian style, producing arias and instrumental pieces with the fluency of someone who'd spent years studying in Italy, not someone who'd just arrived. Firmian was impressed. More importantly, he was convinced. He began introducing Wolfgang to other influential figures in Milan's musical world, opening doors that would have remained closed to an unknown 14-year-old. But the real test came in Bologna. Bologna was home to the Accademia Filarmonica, one of the most prestigious musical institutions in Europe. Membership in the academy was a mark of serious recognition, reserved for composers who had proven themselves over years of work. They didn't admit children. They didn't admit anyone who hadn't demonstrated mastery of counterpoint, the complex art of weaving multiple musical lines together. Wolfgang wanted in. Leopold arranged for Wolfgang to study with Padre Giovanni Battista Martini, the foremost music theorist in Italy. Martini was a Franciscan friar who dedicated his life to understanding the mathematical and theoretical foundations of music. He was skeptical of child prodigies. He'd seen too many flash-in-the-pan talents who could dazzle audiences but couldn't write a proper fugue. Wolfgang showed up at Martini's door with his scores. The priest examined them, tested Wolfgang at the keyboard, gave him increasingly difficult exercises in counterpoint. Slowly, his skepticism melted. This boy wasn't a fraud. He was the real thing. Martini agreed to support Wolfgang's application to the Accademia. In October 1770, Wolfgang took the entrance examination. He was locked in a room with a piece of planchant and told to compose a 4-part setting of it in strict counterpoint. The usual time allowed was 3 hours. Wolfgang finished in 30 minutes. The academicians deliberated. They voted. Wolfgang was admitted. At 14, he became one of the youngest members in the Academy's history. The title meant something. It meant that Italy's musical establishment had accepted him as a peer, not a curiosity. While in Bologna, Wolfgang also received the commission that would define this Italian journey. The Teatro Regio Ducal in Milan wanted an opera for the 1770-71 season. They wanted Wolfgang to compose it. This wasn't a private performance in someone's garden. This was a major production at one of Italy's premier opera houses, with professional singers, a full orchestra, and an audience that included some of the most demanding critics in Europe. The fee was substantial, the prestige even more so. Wolfgang accepted immediately. There was one problem. He had to wait until autumn to receive the libretto, the text he would set to music. Opera composers didn't choose their own stories. They were given a text by a professional librettist and expected to bring it to life through music. Wolfgang wouldn't know what he was composing until months after the commission was confirmed. So he kept moving. Rome was next, arriving in time for Holy Week, 1770. Rome was overwhelming. The city was filled with ancient ruins, Renaissance palaces, and churches containing art that Wolfgang had only heard about. He walked through St. Peter's Basilica, overwhelmed by the scale. He visited the Sistine Chapel and saw Michelangelo's ceiling, and he heard the Miserere. The Miserere was a piece of choral music by Gregorio Allegri, performed only in the Sistine Chapel during Holy Week. The Vatican guarded the score jealously, forbidding anyone from copying it. The music was famous across Europe, but almost no one outside the papal choir knew exactly how it went. Wolfgang heard it once, then he went back to his lodgings and wrote it down from memory. The entire piece, all the intricate vocal lines, the ornamentations, everything. He checked his work by attending a second performance later in the week and making a few small corrections. When word got out, it caused a sensation. The boy had memorized and transcribed a piece of music that the Vatican had kept secret for over a century. Instead of being angry, Pope Clement XIV was impressed. He awarded Wolfgang the Order of the Golden Spur, a papal knighthood usually reserved for military heroes and important diplomats. Wolfgang could now legally call himself Cavaliere Mozart. He used the title for about 6 months before quietly dropping it. Italian nobles weren't impressed by honours given to teenagers, and Wolfgang had enough sense to realise that flaunting a papal knighthood might create more problems than it solved. The Italian tour continued. Naples, where Wolfgang performed before the royal court, back to Bologna to work with Martini, back to Milan to begin work on the opera. By October 1770, Wolfgang finally received his libretto. The opera would be called Mithridate, Re di Ponto. It was a serious opera, an opera seria, based on the story of Mithridates, a king who fought against Rome. The text was dense, the cast large, the musical demands extreme. Wolfgang had 6 weeks to compose the entire thing. He worked constantly. The score had to include elaborate arias for each of the principal singers, each one tailored to show off that particular performer's strengths. He had to write recitatives, the sung dialogue that moved the plot forward. He had to compose ensemble pieces where multiple characters sang simultaneously. And he had to do all of this while navigating the egos and demands of professional opera singers who weren't used to taking direction from a 14-year-old. The primo uomo, the lead male role sung by a castrato named Pietro Benedetti, initially refused to sing the arias Wolfgang had written for him. They weren't showy enough. They didn't give him enough opportunities to display his technique. Wolfgang rewrote them. Benedetti still wasn't satisfied. Wolfgang rewrote them again. The prima donna had similar complaints. Wolfgang adjusted her arias, adding more ornamentation, higher notes, longer phrases. He was learning that opera wasn't just about music. It was about managing personalities. Rehearsals were chaos. The orchestra struggled with Wolfgang's writing, which was more complex than what they usually played. The singers quarrelled with each other and with Wolfgang. Leopold watched nervously, knowing that if this premiere failed, Wolfgang's Italian reputation would be destroyed. December 26, 1770, opening night, the Teatro Regio Ducal was packed. The audience included nobility from across northern Italy, critics from major cities, and every important musician in Milan. They'd come to see if the child prodigy could deliver a real opera. The overture began. Wolfgang conducted from the harpsichord, directing the orchestra and singers. 3 hours later, when the final curtain fell, the audience erupted. They demanded encores of several arias. They called for Wolfgang to appear on stage. They cheered until he did. The opera ran for 22 performances, an enormous success by the standards of the time. The critics were nearly unanimous in their praise. Wolfgang had proven himself. He wasn't just a talented child. He was a serious composer capable of working at the highest level. He was 15 years old. But success in Italy didn't translate automatically to success elsewhere. The problem with being a freelance musician, even a famous one, was that you had to keep hustling. One triumph didn't guarantee the next commission. Wolfgang and Leopold returned to Salzburg in March 1771, with Wolfgang's reputation enhanced but his future still uncertain. Salzburg felt smaller than ever. The city had about 15,000 people, almost all of them connected to either the Catholic Church or the salt trade that gave the city its name. The archbishop, Sigismund von Schrattenbach, had been tolerant of Leopold's long absences, but tolerance had its limits. Leopold needed to get back to work. Wolfgang needed to figure out what came next. The answer arrived in the form of another opera commission from Milan. The success of Mithridate had led to a second contract, this time for the 1772-73 season. Wolfgang would have to return to Italy, but that wouldn't happen for over a year. In the meantime, he was stuck in Salzburg with nothing to do. Actually, that's not quite true. He had plenty to do. He just didn't want to do it. Salzburg needed church music, and Wolfgang could provide it. He composed masses, litanies, and vespers. He wrote symphonies for the court orchestra. He fulfilled his obligations as a musician, employed, however informally, by the archbishop. But he was bored. Salzburg's musical life was provincial compared to what he'd experienced in Italy. The musicians were competent but not exceptional. The audiences were small and unsophisticated. There was no opera, no real concert life, no intellectual ferment. Wolfgang was also changing in ways that made Salzburg more difficult to tolerate. He was 16 now, old enough to notice that other young men his age had freedom he lacked. They could choose their friends, their pursuits, their futures. Wolfgang's life was still managed entirely by his father. Leopold's control was total and mostly unquestioned. He decided where they travelled, whom they visited, what music Wolfgang should write. He managed Wolfgang's finances, kept his earnings, and made every significant decision about his son's career. Wolfgang accepted this because he'd never known anything else, and because Leopold's guidance had, so far, been mostly sound. But the dynamic was becoming strained. Wolfgang was no longer a child prodigy. He was a young man with his own ideas about music, his own taste, his own ambitions. Those ambitions didn't always align with Leopold's plans. The tension remained mostly hidden during the Salzburg months. Wolfgang composed what was asked of him, performed when required, and waited for the next Italian trip. But something had shifted. The boy who'd obediently performed for kings was becoming someone else. December 1771. Wolfgang and Leopold left for Milan again. This time the journey felt different. Wolfgang wasn't a curiosity anymore. He was a professional returning to fulfill a contract. The Milanese audiences knew what to expect, and their expectations were high. The new opera was called Ascanio in Alba, a serenata teatrale composed for the wedding celebrations of Archduke Ferdinand of Austria. It was a commission of enormous prestige, performed before the cream of European nobility, and it was a triumph. The audience loved it. The critics praised it. Archduke Ferdinand himself was so impressed that he wrote to his mother, Empress Maria Theresa, suggesting that she hire Wolfgang for the imperial court in Vienna. The Empress's response was swift and crushing. She wrote back telling her son to avoid employing useless people who went around the world like beggars. She didn't want Wolfgang at her court. The rejection stung, but there was no appealing it. When the Empress of Austria said no, the answer was no. Wolfgang and Leopold returned to Salzburg in December 1771. Again, the pattern was becoming familiar. Success abroad, return to provincial Salzburg, wait for the next opportunity. It was a frustrating cycle, and it was about to get worse. Because in December 1771, Archbishop Schrattenbach died. His successor would transform Wolfgang's life in ways neither he nor Leopold could have anticipated. The new archbishop was Hieronymus von Colloredo, and he was nothing like his predecessor. Schrattenbach had been old, genial, comfortable with tradition. Colloredo was 40, energetic, and determined to modernize everything. He'd been educated by Jesuits, influenced by Enlightenment ideas, and convinced that Salzburg needed reform. He arrived with plans to streamline the court, reduce expenses, and eliminate what he saw as wasteful extravagance. Music, in Colloredo's view, was a service. It existed to glorify God during Mass and to provide modest entertainment at court functions. Musicians were employees, no different from cooks or gardeners. They showed up, did their work, and went home. The idea that a court musician might need time off to travel, to pursue commissions elsewhere, to build an international reputation, this struck Colloredo as absurd. Why would he pay someone who wasn't actually present to do the job? Wolfgang was officially appointed Concertmeister in August 1772. It came with a salary, finally, 150 gulden per year. Not generous, but not insulting either for a 16-year-old. The position meant Wolfgang was responsible for composing music for the court, leading violin sections when needed, and generally making himself useful. He accepted it because there wasn't really another option. Leopold had been pushing for some formal recognition of Wolfgang's abilities, some official position that would provide stability. This was it. What neither of them fully grasped yet was that Colloredo had no intention of letting Wolfgang become another absent employee, collecting a salary while gallivanting around Europe. The archbishop expected his musicians in Salzburg doing Salzburg's work. The next few years would test that expectation to its breaking point. Wolfgang threw himself into composition. If he couldn't travel, he'd create. Between 1772 and 1777, he produced an astonishing amount of music: symphonies, divertimentos, serenades, concertos, church music, chamber works. He was writing constantly, developing his craft, experimenting with forms and styles. Some of it was routine work, music for specific occasions that came and went. But some pieces showed real ambition. The symphonies were getting longer, more complex, more emotionally varied. The concertos showed increasing confidence in how to balance soloist and orchestra. He was also listening. Salzburg might have been provincial, but music travelled. Scores arrived from Vienna, from Mannheim, from Paris. Wolfgang studied them, absorbed ideas, incorporated what he liked. He was particularly fascinated by the Mannheim Orchestra, famous across Europe for its discipline, its dynamic range, its ability to execute the most demanding music with precision. He'd never heard them in person, but their reputation influenced how he thought about orchestral writing. Leopold watched his son's development with pride and growing frustration. Wolfgang was becoming extraordinary, and he was stuck in Salzburg. The disconnect was painful. Every symphony Wolfgang wrote, every concerto that showed his maturing genius, was evidence that Salzburg was too small for him. But Colloredo wouldn't release them for extended travel. Short trips maybe, a few weeks here or there, but nothing like the grand Italian tours or the long Vienna stays. The archbishop needed his Concertmeister present. The relationship between Wolfgang and Colloredo was doomed from the start. They were fundamentally incompatible. Colloredo saw music as a craft, musicians as craftsmen. Wolfgang saw music as art, himself as an artist. Colloredo valued punctuality, obedience, efficiency. Wolfgang valued creativity, freedom, recognition. Colloredo thought Wolfgang was arrogant and undisciplined. Wolfgang thought Colloredo was a Philistine who understood nothing about music. Neither was entirely wrong. By 1777, Wolfgang was 21 years old. He'd spent most of his life travelling, performing, being celebrated. The last few years confined to Salzburg had been suffocating. He needed to leave, to find a position worthy of his abilities, to establish himself somewhere that mattered. Leopold agreed, but faced a problem. He couldn't leave his own position. He had responsibilities, a salary he couldn't afford to lose. If Wolfgang was going to travel, he'd have to go without his father. This was unprecedented. Leopold had managed every aspect of Wolfgang's career since childhood. The thought of sending him off alone was terrifying. Wolfgang was brilliant with music, but hopeless with practical matters. He was impulsive, easily distracted, too trusting of people who didn't deserve it. He needed supervision. The solution was Maria Anna Mozart, Wolfgang's mother. She would accompany him, provide the adult presence Leopold couldn't, and keep Wolfgang focused on the mission. The mission was simple: find a position, a real position at a major court with a salary that reflected Wolfgang's abilities. Vienna would be ideal. Munich would work. Paris was a possibility. Anywhere but Salzburg. They left in September 1777. Wolfgang and his mother travelling together for the first time. Leopold stayed behind, anxious and controlling from a distance, through an endless stream of letters. He wrote almost daily, offering advice, demanding updates, second-guessing every decision. Wolfgang wrote back, initially dutiful, gradually more independent. Their first stop was Munich. Wolfgang had performed there before, and the Elector of Bavaria knew his work. Surely there would be an opening, some position in the court orchestra or opera house. Wolfgang presented himself, played for the right people, made his case. The Elector was polite. He praised Wolfgang's abilities. He said there were no positions available. Maybe later, maybe when something opened up. Wolfgang should keep in touch. It was the first of many such conversations. Everywhere Wolfgang went, he encountered the same pattern. People admired his talent. They enjoyed his performances. They had no jobs to offer. Courts already had their composers, their Kapellmeisters, their orchestras fully staffed. Why would they create a position for a 21-year-old from Salzburg, no matter how talented? From Munich they went to Augsburg, Leopold's birthplace. Wolfgang met relatives he barely knew, performed at local gatherings, and made little progress toward finding employment. He did meet someone who would become significant later, though neither of them knew it yet. Johann Andreas Stein, a piano builder who developed an instrument with a new kind of action. Wolfgang tried it and was impressed. The touch was more responsive than the harpsichords he'd grown up with. The sound more varied. He filed the information away, then to Mannheim. This was the real goal. The Mannheim court was one of the richest in Europe. The Elector Palatine Karl Theodor maintained the finest orchestra in the world, employed the best composers, and paid them well. If Wolfgang could secure a position here, everything would change. Mannheim dazzled him. The orchestra was everything he'd imagined. Disciplined, virtuosic, capable of effects no other ensemble could match. The famous Mannheim crescendo, a gradual increase in volume and intensity that audiences found thrilling. The carefully calibrated dynamics, the precision attacks, the sheer power of the ensemble. Wolfgang attended concerts, studied their techniques, and absorbed lessons about orchestral writing that would influence his work for years. He also fell in love. Not with Mannheim itself, though he loved that too, with Aloysia Weber. She was 16, a soprano with a beautiful voice and serious musical talent. Wolfgang heard her sing and was smitten. He started composing arias for her, elaborate pieces that showed off her range and technique. He spent hours with her family, the Webers, who were musicians themselves, and treated Wolfgang as an equal. He talked about taking Aloysia to Italy, training her, launching her career. They could tour together. He'd compose operas for her. It would be perfect. Leopold, reading these plans in Wolfgang's letters back in Salzburg, was horrified. His son was supposed to be finding a position, securing his future, building a career. Instead, he was mooning over a teenage singer and fantasizing about impractical schemes. Leopold's response was swift and harsh. He wrote telling Wolfgang to stop being foolish, to focus on the actual goal, to remember his responsibilities. Wolfgang was wasting time and money. The Weber family were probably manipulating him. He needed to leave Mannheim immediately and continue to Paris, where real opportunities awaited. Wolfgang resented the interference, but couldn't entirely ignore it. Leopold was probably right about the practicalities, even if he was wrong about Aloysia. There was no position materializing in Mannheim. Karl Theodor liked Wolfgang's playing, but wasn't creating a job for him. The money Leopold had provided for the trip was running low. They couldn't stay indefinitely. In March 1778, Wolfgang and his mother left Mannheim for Paris. Wolfgang went reluctantly, still thinking about Aloysia, still convinced that Mannheim was where he belonged. Maria Anna went wearily. She was 57 years old, tired from months of travel, missing her home and her husband. Paris was cold and expensive and overwhelming. Paris in 1778 was the cultural capital of Europe. The city teemed with artists, writers, musicians, all competing for attention and patronage. The concert life was sophisticated, the audiences demanding, the opportunities theoretically endless. Wolfgang arrived with connections from his childhood visit, letters of introduction, and memories of earlier triumphs. Surely Paris would recognize his now mature genius. It didn't. Paris had moved on. The child prodigy who charmed audiences 15 years earlier was forgotten. The 22-year-old composer arriving now was unknown. Wolfgang performed at salons, met influential people, tried to secure commissions. Progress was slow and frustrating. The French musical establishment had its own composers, its own favourites. They weren't waiting for an Austrian to enlighten them. Wolfgang did receive one significant commission, a symphony for a concert series. He composed what would later be called the Paris Symphony, a work designed to please French taste with prominent wind parts and brilliant orchestration. It was performed in June 1778 and succeeded. The audience applauded. Critics praised it. Wolfgang should have been pleased. He wasn't, because by then everything else had collapsed. His mother had fallen ill in late June. The Paris summer was hot and stifling. Maria Anna, never robust, weakened rapidly. Wolfgang found a doctor, tried various treatments, hoped for improvement. She got worse. On July 3rd, 1778, Maria Anna Mozart died in their rented rooms in Paris. Wolfgang was alone in a foreign city with his mother's body and no idea what to do. He wrote to Leopold, a letter that started with careful evasions before delivering the news. He wrote to family friends in Salzburg, asking them to break it to Leopold gently. He made arrangements for burial, dealt with bureaucracy, settled debts. He was numb and terrified, and completely out of his depth. Maria Anna was buried at a Paris cemetery. The funeral was small. Wolfgang attended, along with a few acquaintances who knew the family. Then he was alone in Paris with no reason to stay and nowhere obvious to go. Leopold's letters, when they finally reached Paris, were devastating. Not just grief, though, there was plenty of that. Anger, blame. Why hadn't Wolfgang found better doctors? Why hadn't he been more careful? Why had he taken his mother to Paris in the first place, instead of finding a position in Munich or Mannheim? Leopold didn't say directly that he held Wolfgang responsible for Maria Anna's death, but the implication was clear. Wolfgang knew he had to leave Paris. The city had given him nothing but loss, but Leopold's next instruction was unthinkable. Come back to Salzburg, take your old position with Colorado, accept reality. The Grand Tour had failed. There were no positions elsewhere. Salzburg was home, and home was where Wolfgang belonged. Wolfgang resisted. He couldn't go back to Salzburg. It would be admission of defeat, proof that Leopold had been right about everything, confirmation that he was nothing more than a provincial musician pretending at greatness. He wrote to Leopold suggesting alternatives. Maybe he could try Vienna. Maybe something would open up in Munich. Maybe if he just waited a bit longer in Paris. Leopold was unmoved. He'd already negotiated with Colorado, a better position this time. Court and cathedral organist with a salary of 450 gulden, much better than before. Wolfgang should be grateful. He should come home. The breaking point came when Wolfgang detoured through Munich on his way back. He wanted to see Aloysia Weber again. He'd been composing for her, thinking about her, convinced that she shared his feelings. When he arrived, she barely acknowledged him. Her career was progressing nicely without his help. She didn't need him anymore. She made it clear, politely but firmly, that whatever Wolfgang imagined existed between them was one-sided. Wolfgang finally accepted the inevitable. In January 1779, he returned to Salzburg, defeated and employed. Salzburg felt smaller than ever. The streets narrower, the air heavier, the familiar faces more suffocating. Wolfgang was 23 years old, and back where he'd started, wearing the same court livery, playing the same organ in the same cathedral, serving the same archbishop who despised him. The job itself was tolerable. Organist and court composer carried certain responsibilities, but also freedoms. Wolfgang wrote masses for the cathedral, sonatas for court functions, occasional pieces when required. The music was competent, sometimes inspired, often mechanical. He was going through the motions, everyone could tell. His relationship with Leopold had fundamentally changed. They lived in the same house, saw each other daily, maintained civility. But the easy warmth was gone. Leopold had been proven right about Paris, about the Weber family, about Wolfgang's inability to manage practical affairs. Wolfgang knew it. Leopold knew he knew it. The knowledge sat between them at every meal. Nannerl was still there, still unmarried at 28, still teaching piano to local children, still practicing daily, though no one came to hear her perform anymore. She watched her younger brother with complicated feelings, relief that he was home, resentment that even in defeat he remained the centre of their father's universe, sadness that the golden childhood when they toured together seemed impossibly distant. Wolfgang threw himself into composition with manic energy. If he couldn't escape Salzburg physically, he'd escape it mentally. Between January 1779 and his eventual departure in 1781, he produced an astonishing amount of music: church sonatas, symphonies, serenades, concertos, much of it written to order, fulfilling his duties, but much of it reaching beyond anything Salzburg required or appreciated. The Sinfonia Concertante in E-flat major came from this period. It's a work for violin and viola with orchestra, showcasing both soloists equally. The viola part is particularly striking. No one wrote for viola like that. No one thought viola deserved such prominence. Wolfgang gave it melodies that soared and wept, technical passages that challenged the best players, a voice as important as the violins. It was as if he was saying, the overlooked instrument matters too. The neglected voice deserves to be heard. He also composed sacred music because the cathedral demanded it. But even here, rebellion simmered beneath the surface. The Mass in C major, written in 1779, contains moments of startling operatic drama. This was church music that wanted to be theatre, devotional texts treated with theatrical intensity. Colorado hated it. Services should be dignified, restrained, brief. Wolfgang's masses sprawled with emotional extravagance. They were beautiful. They were inappropriate. They were deliberate provocations. And then there was opera. Always opera. Salzburg had no opera house, no tradition of serious operatic production. But Wolfgang couldn't stop thinking in operatic terms. He sketched scenes, drafted arias, imagined entire works that would never be performed in this provincial backwater. The one bright spot came in 1780, when Munich commissioned an opera. Munich was Bavaria's capital, sophisticated by German standards, with a proper court theatre and serious musical resources. The commission was for an opera seria, a serious opera in Italian on a mythological subject. The fee was decent. The opportunity was everything. The libretto was Idomeneo, Re di Creta, the story of King Idomeneo returning from the Trojan War, who vows to Neptune that he'll sacrifice the first person he meets if the god saves him from a shipwreck. The first person is his own son. It's a classical tragedy with all the expected elements: gods, sacrifices, moral dilemmas, spectacular disasters. Wolfgang seized the opportunity with both hands. He'd write an opera that would prove he belonged in Munich, not Salzburg. That would demonstrate he could handle large-scale dramatic composition. That would force the musical world to take him seriously. He began composing in October 1780, working in Salzburg but corresponding constantly with a librettist in Munich. The letters reveal Wolfgang's dramatic instincts, fully engaged for the first time. He didn't just set the text to music, he questioned every dramatic choice, suggested revisions, fought for changes that would make scenes more effective theatrically. The oracle scene, where Neptune's voice pronounces doom, needed to be terrifying. The quartet in Act 3, where 4 characters each express different emotions simultaneously, should be the emotional climax. The final scene required genuine catharsis. Wolfgang knew exactly what he wanted and argued fiercely to get it. In November, Colloredo granted Wolfgang leave to go to Munich for rehearsals. Leopold came too. Father and son together again, travelling for music, the old pattern reasserting itself. But the dynamic had shifted. Wolfgang was no longer the obedient child. He was a composer with strong opinions, and he wasn't afraid to express them. Rehearsals were intense. The singers were excellent, far better than anything available in Salzburg. Wolfgang worked with them individually, adjusting arias to suit their voices, adding passages that would show them to advantage, cutting material that didn't work. The orchestra was superb and he pushed them hard. The score demanded virtuosity. They rose to meet it. Idomeneo premiered on January 29, 1781, at the Residenz Theatre in Munich. It was a triumph. The audience responded with genuine enthusiasm. The orchestra played brilliantly. The singers delivered. Wolfgang had created something extraordinary, an opera seria that actually worked dramatically, that made old conventions feel vital and urgent. The music is remarkable even now. The storm music in Act 1 sounds like the ocean trying to devour the world. The Act 3 quartet achieves what Wolfgang intended: 4 distinct emotional states, woven together into something heartbreaking and beautiful. The final scene, where Idomeneo abdicates and his son is spared, resolves the tragedy with music of radiant acceptance. Leopold was proud. Nannerl, who'd come to Munich for the premiere, was impressed despite herself. Wolfgang felt vindicated. This was what he could do when given proper resources. This proved he belonged among serious composers, but success in Munich didn't change his situation. Salzburg was still waiting. Colloredo was still his employer. The leave of absence would end, and he'd have to return to his cage. Then something unexpected happened. Colloredo summoned his entire musical establishment to Vienna. The archbishop had business in the imperial capital and wanted his musicians there to perform at various functions. They were to demonstrate Salzburg's cultural sophistication to the Viennese aristocracy. Wolfgang arrived in Vienna in March 1781. He'd been to the city before as a child, performing at Schönbrunn Palace, dazzling the imperial court. Now he was back as an adult, a skilled composer, a proven operatic talent fresh from his Munich success. Vienna was everything Salzburg wasn't. It was enormous, cosmopolitan, musically sophisticated. The aristocracy maintained private orchestras. Italian opera flourished at the court theatre. Concert life was rich and varied. Composers could actually make a living through a combination of teaching, performing, and publishing. Independence was possible here in ways it never could be in provincial Salzburg. But Wolfgang was still Colloredo's employee. He was housed with the other servants in cramped quarters. He was expected to perform when ordered, attend when summoned, behave like the hired help, which is what he was. The humiliations came quickly. At one nobleman's house, Wolfgang was made to eat with the cooks and valets, while Colloredo dined with the aristocrats. When important visitors wanted to hear the famous Mozart play, Colloredo sometimes refused to make him available. The archbishop enjoyed asserting his authority over this difficult, talented servant who'd never learned his place. Wolfgang saw what his life could be. He was invited to perform at aristocratic salons. He met Vienna's musical elite. He heard the opera companies, the orchestras, the level of performance that made Salzburg look like a village. And he realized he he couldn't go back. The confrontation built gradually through April. Wolfgang kept requesting permission to perform at private functions. Colloredo kept refusing. Wolfgang argued, Colloredo commanded. The tension escalated. Other factors were at work too. Wolfgang was spending time with the Weber family again. They'd moved to Vienna after Fridolin Weber's death. Aloysia was married now to an actor, which solved that problem. But there were other daughters, particularly Constanza, the third daughter, whom Wolfgang was starting to notice. The final explosion came in May. Wolfgang had been offered a lucrative engagement to perform at a benefit concert. Colloredo forbade it. Wolfgang argued that he was losing money, that his skills were being wasted. Colloredo replied that Wolfgang was a servant who did as he was told. Wolfgang submitted his resignation. Colloredo refused to accept it. Wolfgang insisted. A series of increasingly heated exchanges followed. The archbishop's chief steward, Count Arco, tried to mediate. Wolfgang wouldn't back down. On June 8, 1781, Wolfgang went to the archbishop's residence to deliver his final resignation in person. Count Arco met him. Words were exchanged. And then, according to Wolfgang's own account, Arco physically kicked him out of the room. The humiliation was complete. Wolfgang had been literally kicked out of his position, but he was also, finally, free. He wrote to Leopold immediately. The letter is defiant, energized, terrified. He'd done it. He'd quit. He was staying in Vienna. He'd make his own way as an independent musician. It would work. It had to work. Leopold's response was predictable. Horror, anger, accusations of ingratitude and foolishness. Wolfgang had thrown away security for pride. He'd embarrassed the family. He'd ruined his career. He should apologize to Colloredo, beg for his position back, come home to Salzburg before it was too late. Wolfgang refused. For the first time in his life, he stood completely against his father's wishes and held firm. He would stay in Vienna. He would succeed on his own terms. He would prove that independence was possible. He moved into lodgings with the Weber family. Cecilia Weber, the mother, rented out rooms to make ends meet. It was respectable enough, though Leopold immediately assumed the worst. Wolfgang living with a family of women, one of whom he'd already been infatuated with. Nothing good could come from this. Wolfgang spent the summer establishing himself in Vienna. He took on piano students, mostly aristocratic young women whose families paid well. He began performing at salons, building a reputation as a brilliant pianist and improviser. He started planning concerts, composing new works, making connections, and he grew closer to Constanza Weber. She was 20 years old, not beautiful like Aloysia, not particularly accomplished musically, but she was cheerful, uncomplicated, and she seemed genuinely fond of Wolfgang. More importantly, she didn't mind his intensity, his mood swings, his obsessive focus on music. By autumn, they were practically engaged. Leopold, receiving news of this development from Salzburg, was beside himself. Wolfgang was repeating the same mistake, falling for another Weber daughter, letting himself be manipulated by a scheming mother, who saw him as a meal ticket for her unmarried daughter. Wolfgang insisted it was different this time. He loved Constanza. She loved him. They'd marry when he could afford it. Leopold should be happy that his son had found someone. Leopold was not happy. He was watching his son make every mistake he'd warned against. Quitting secure employment, trusting the wrong people, planning marriage without financial stability. Everything Leopold had taught Wolfgang, everything the Grand Tour was supposed to prove, all of it was being thrown away for romantic notions of artistic freedom. But Wolfgang wasn't listening anymore. He was building a new life in Vienna, the city that would be his home for the remaining decade of his life, the city where he'd create his greatest works and struggle constantly for money, the city where he'd finally escape his father's shadow, for better and worse. The correspondence between father and son continued, but the warmth was gone. They were negotiating now, managing a relationship fractured beyond repair. Leopold still gave advice. Wolfgang still mostly ignored it. The pattern would hold until Leopold's death 6 years later. Vienna in 1781 was entering a golden age. Joseph II, the reform-minded emperor, was modernizing the empire, promoting education, supporting the arts. The aristocracy competed to host the best musicians. Opera was thriving. Publishers were eager for new works. Wolfgang Mozart was 25 years old, unemployed, and free for the first time in his life. The question was whether freedom would be his making or his destruction. The first year of freedom was intoxicating. Wolfgang threw himself into Vienna's musical life with an energy that bordered on manic. He performed everywhere, wrote constantly, networked relentlessly. The city responded. Aristocrats invited him to their salons. His piano students multiplied. Publishers expressed interest in his compositions. But there was a problem. None of this translated into steady income. A successful salon performance might earn him a nice gift, maybe some ducats. But it wasn't a salary. Students paid well enough, but they came and went. Publishing brought in occasional fees, but nothing predictable. Wolfgang was making money, sometimes quite a bit of it, but it arrived in unpredictable bursts rather than reliable streams. Leopold's warnings echoed in his mind, though he'd never admit it. Without a position, without patronage, a musician was always vulnerable. One season, you might be the toast of Vienna. The next season, forgotten. Wolfgang needed something bigger. He decided to organize a subscription concert series. The model was simple. Aristocrats would subscribe in advance, guaranteeing an audience and providing capital. Wolfgang would rent a venue, hire musicians, and perform his own works. If successful, these concerts could establish him as Vienna's premier independent musician. The planning consumed him. He composed 6 new piano concertos specifically for the series. Not background music, but substantial works that would showcase his abilities. He secured the Mailgruber, a decent venue. He printed announcements, solicited subscriptions, rehearsed the orchestra. March 1782. The first concert. Wolfgang sat at the keyboard, facing an audience of Vienna's cultural elite. He'd staked everything on this moment. The concertos were brilliant. The audience knew it. They applauded enthusiastically, demanded encores, subscribed for future concerts. It worked. Over the next 3 years, Wolfgang would give dozens of these subscription concerts. They became Vienna's premier musical events. He premiered new piano concertos, symphonies and arias. He improvised at the keyboard, dazzling audiences with his ability to spin elaborate variations on themes they suggested. He competed in musical duels with other pianists, always emerging victorious. The money flowed in. Not riches, but more than he'd ever earned in Salzburg. Enough to live well, dress fashionably, maintain appearances, enough to marry. August 1782. Wolfgang and Constanza were married at St. Stephen's Cathedral. Leopold wasn't there. He'd given his grudging consent by letter, but he refused to attend. The message was clear. If Wolfgang wanted to make his own decisions, he could live with the consequences alone. The young couple moved into an apartment on the Hohe Brücke. It was modest but respectable. Constanza proved to be exactly what Wolfgang needed. Not a brilliant intellectual or musical genius, but a steady, affectionate presence who accepted him completely. She understood his work came first. She tolerated his mood swings. She managed their household as best she could, though neither of them had any talent for managing money. And Wolfgang was happy, genuinely happy. He'd escaped his father's control, married the woman he chose, and succeeded in Vienna's competitive musical world. He was composing freely, performing regularly, earning well. Everything he'd hoped for seemed within reach. Then he discovered opera. Vienna had always been an opera city, but in 1782, Emperor Joseph II was promoting a specific kind, German opera, Singspiel, rather than Italian opera seria. Joseph wanted to cultivate a distinctly German musical culture. He'd established a German opera company at the Burg Theatre and was commissioning new works. Wolfgang saw the opportunity immediately. Opera combined everything he loved: drama, music, character, spectacle. And unlike instrumental music, which required constant concerts to earn money, a successful opera could run for weeks, bringing in revenue and fame. The Emperor's theatre director commissioned him to write a Singspiel. The libretto was already chosen: Die Entführung aus dem Serail, The Abduction from the Seraglio, a comedy about European lovers escaping from a Turkish harem. Not profound, but entertaining and fashionable. Wolfgang composed it in a white heat. The music was everything his previous operas weren't. Sophisticated, inventive, emotionally complex. He gave the villain Osman music of surprising depth. He wrote arias that advanced the plot rather than stopping it. He created ensemble numbers where multiple characters sang simultaneously, each with distinct musical personalities. July 1782. The premiere, the Emperor attended. So did much of Vienna's aristocracy. Wolfgang conducted from the keyboard, watching his creation unfold. It was a triumph. The audience demanded encores of several numbers. The Emperor himself supposedly said, "Too many notes, my dear Mozart." Whether he actually said it or not, the comment captured something real. Wolfgang's music was dense, complex, demanding. It asked more of listeners than they were accustomed to giving, but they gave it. The opera ran for weeks. It was performed across Europe. Wolfgang Mozart was suddenly famous beyond Vienna. The boy wonder had matured into something more interesting, a composer who could write music that was both popular and sophisticated, entertaining and profound. Money continued to arrive: concert fees, opera royalties, publishing advances, teaching income. Wolfgang and Constanze moved to a larger apartment. They bought furniture, hired servants, lived like successful artists should live, and they started having children. In June 1783, their first son was born. They named him Raimund Leopold, after Wolfgang's father. The baby lived 6 weeks. Infant mortality was common, everyone knew that, but the loss devastated them both. Constanze fell into depression. Wolfgang buried himself in work. 4 months later, Wolfgang made a decision that surprised everyone. He would take Constanze to Salzburg to meet his father and sister. The visit was a disaster. Leopold received them coldly. He was civil to Constanze barely. He criticised Wolfgang's choices, his finances, his career decisions. Nannerl, now married and bitter about her own truncated musical career, was hardly warmer. The house Wolfgang had grown up in felt hostile, foreign. But something important happened during that visit. Wolfgang and his father attended a performance of Michael Haydn's Mass. Haydn was Salzburg's court composer, and he'd written nothing remarkable. Wolfgang, listening to the mediocre music filling the cathedral, realised something profound. He'd been right to leave. Salzburg would have killed him creatively. Not quickly, not dramatically. Slowly, year by year, concert by concert, producing competent music for provincial audiences who wouldn't know the difference between genius and mere skill. Vienna, for all its challenges, let him grow, demanded that he grow. The reconciliation Leopold hoped for never came. Wolfgang and Constanze returned to Vienna after 3 months. Father and son would see each other only once more before Leopold's death. Back in Vienna, Wolfgang's career entered a new phase. The subscription concerts continued, but competition increased. Other musicians copied his model. Audiences had more choices. Wolfgang had to work harder to fill seats. He started composing string quartets. Not for money, these pieces wouldn't sell many copies, but Joseph Haydn, the greatest living composer and the master of the string quartet, lived in Vienna now. Wolfgang wanted to prove himself to Haydn, to show that the younger generation could meet the older on equal terms. The 6 quartets he produced were extraordinary. Complex, challenging, emotionally rich. He dedicated them to Haydn with a published letter that was surprisingly humble. Wolfgang called them the fruits of long and laborious study. He acknowledged Haydn as his teacher, though Haydn had never formally taught him. When Haydn heard the quartets performed at Wolfgang's apartment, with Wolfgang playing viola and Haydn first violin, the older composer turned to Leopold, who happened to be visiting, and said something that became legendary. "I tell you before God, as an honest man, your son is the greatest composer I know, either personally or by reputation." Leopold wrote it down immediately. His son, validated by the greatest composer alive. Everything Leopold had believed, everything he'd sacrificed, proven correct. But Wolfgang barely noticed his father's satisfaction. He was already moving to the next project, piano concertos. He composed them at a furious pace, not simple display pieces, but works of genuine depth. The slow movements were often tragic, probing emotional territories instrumental music rarely touched. The finales were witty, sometimes profound, always inventive. He premiered them at his concerts, playing the solo parts himself. Audiences loved watching him perform. He didn't just play the notes, he inhabited the music, lost himself in it. When he improvised cadenzas, the elaborately virtuosic sections where the orchestra fell silent and the soloist showed off, he created entire musical worlds spontaneously. Other pianists tried to compete. They couldn't. Wolfgang's technique was superior, yes, but technique wasn't the real difference. He understood the piano as an orchestra in miniature. Every other pianist was playing an instrument. Wolfgang was revealing what the instrument could become. The money was good, very good. In 1785, his best year, Wolfgang earned roughly 4,000 florins. A decent court position might pay 800. He was earning 5 times what Salzburg would have paid him. And he was spending 6. Neither Wolfgang nor Constanzi understood economy. Money arrived, they spent it. On better apartments, nicer clothes, elaborate dinners. Wolfgang needed to present himself as successful to maintain his position in Viennese society. Appearing prosperous was part of the business model, but expenses always exceeded income. They borrowed. From friends, from moneylenders, from anyone who'd loaned to them. Wolfgang assumed the next concert, the next commission, the next success would cover everything. It was a pattern that would destroy him. In 1784, Constanza gave birth to their second son, Carl Thomas. He survived. The relief was overwhelming. Wolfgang composed a piano concerto, K466 in D minor, that seemed to channel every dark emotion he'd been suppressing. It was tragic, violent, unprecedented. Audiences didn't know what to make of it, but they kept coming to his concerts. Wolfgang Mozart was Vienna's star. Young Beethoven, studying in Bonn, talked of travelling to Vienna to study with him. Every ambitious composer wanted to learn his secrets. The problem was, Vienna's attention was fickle. By 1786, the subscription concerts were declining. Not failing, but shrinking. Aristocrats were bored. They'd heard Wolfgang's piano concertos. They wanted something new, different. Other musicians, younger musicians, were emerging. Wolfgang needed to pivot again. Opera. If he could write another success like Die Entführung, he'd secure his position. Opera brought fame, money, and imperial favour. Joseph II still supported German opera, still commissioned new works. Wolfgang approached Lorenzo da Ponte, the emperor's official poet. Da Ponte was Italian, clever, cynical, and he understood theatre. Together, they conceived something radical, an opera based on a controversial French play, Beaumarchais' The Marriage of Figaro. The play was banned in Vienna for its political content. It mocked aristocrats, celebrated servants, suggested that nobility was an accident of birth rather than evidence of superiority. Dangerous material in an empire built on rigid class hierarchy. But da Ponte convinced the emperor that with the political content removed, the story was just a comedy. a farce about mistaken identities and romantic confusion. Nothing threatening. Joseph approved the project. Wolfgang composed throughout 1785 and into 1786. The music was unlike anything he'd written. The ensembles were breathtakingly complex, sometimes 6 or 7 characters singing simultaneously, each with distinct musical lines, distinct emotions, distinct objectives. The orchestration was subtle, sophisticated. The arias revealed character rather than simply showcasing voices. May 1786, the premiere of Le Nozze di Figaro at the Burg Theatre. Wolfgang conducted, the emperor attended. Vienna's elite filled the theatre. The response was mixed. Some loved it, demanded encores of several numbers. Others found it too complex, too long, too demanding. The emperor enjoyed it but didn't champion it. After 9 performances, Figaro left the repertoire. Wolfgang was disappointed but not devastated. The opera would have its day. He believed that. What he didn't anticipate was Prague. Prague was different. The city sat on the Vltava River, 250 miles north of Vienna. Smaller, less cosmopolitan, but fiercely musical. The citizens of Prague didn't just attend opera, they lived it. They sang arias in the streets, they argued about composers in coffee houses, they demanded excellence. In December 1786, Figaro arrived in Prague. Not through Wolfgang's arrangement. A touring company brought the score, performed it, and something extraordinary happened. The city went mad for it. Every performance sold out. People returned multiple times. The complex ensembles that confused Vienna thrilled Prague. They heard what Wolfgang intended. They understood the sophistication. Within weeks, everyone in Prague could hum Figaro's arias. News reached Vienna. Wolfgang read the reports with growing excitement. An entire city had embraced his work. Not just aristocrats attending out of obligation. Regular people, genuinely passionate. In January 1787, Wolfgang and Constanze travelled to Prague. They needed to see this phenomenon themselves. The reception stunned them. Wolfgang was recognised on the streets. Strangers approached to express their admiration. At a ball, the orchestra played nothing but arrangements of Figaro themes. Couples danced to his melodies. The Nostitz Theatre invited him to conduct a performance. The audience erupted when he entered the pit. They cheered between numbers. They demanded encores. Wolfgang had experienced success before, but never devotion like this. A commission followed immediately. Pasquale Bondini, the theatre's impresario, offered Wolfgang 100 ducats to compose a new opera, specifically for Prague. Wolfgang accepted on the spot. Back in Vienna, he met with Da Ponte. They needed a subject that would equal or surpass Figaro. Da Ponte suggested the Don Juan legend, the rake who seduces women and defies heaven. A Spanish story, already set by other composers, but Da Ponte had ideas for making it fresh. Wolfgang loved it. The combination of comedy and tragedy, the supernatural ending, the psychological complexity of a character who refused to repent even when dragged to hell. They worked through spring and summer. Wolfgang composed in his usual fashion, complete sections in his head, then transcribing them rapidly onto paper. The overture, legend claims, was written the night before the premiere. Probably exaggerated, but Wolfgang did leave things dangerously late. October 1787. Wolfgang returned to Prague for rehearsals. The title was Don Giovanni. The cast was excellent. Luigi Bassi, singing the title role, was only 22, but understood the character completely. Teresa Saporiti as Donna Anna brought aristocratic fury. Caterina Micheli as Donna Elvira captured wounded dignity. Rehearsals revealed problems. The music was difficult. The tonal shifts from comedy to horror were unprecedented. Scene changes happened mid-music, requiring perfect coordination. The finale, where the statue drags Giovanni to hell, demanded effects the theatre had never attempted. Wolfgang adjusted constantly. He rewrote arias to suit singers' strengths. He reworked orchestration when balances weren't right. He was collaborative, patient, meticulous. October 29th, the premiere. The Nostitz Theatre packed beyond capacity. People stood in the aisles, nobility and commoners mixed. Prague had claimed Wolfgang as their composer. They expected a masterpiece. The overture began. Ominous chords, premonition of the supernatural conclusion. Then lightness, charm, the surface world of comedy. The first act unfolded. Don Giovanni's attempted seduction, the murder of the commendatore, the betrayals and disguises. The audience laughed at the comic scenes, fell silent during the darker moments. They'd never heard an opera that refused to stay in one emotional register. Act 2 escalated, Giovanni's arrogance increasing, his victims circling, and then the statue, the commendatore's ghost, accepting Giovanni's mocking dinner invitation. The final scene. The statue arrives, stone footsteps, supernatural cold. Giovanni offered one last chance to repent. His refusal. The chorus of demons, the trapdoor opening, fire effects. Giovanni dragged below while singing his defiance. Silence, then pandemonium. The audience exploded. They cheered, stamped, demanded the cast return. Wolfgang was called to the stage repeatedly. Prague had witnessed something that transcended opera. They'd experienced theatre that was philosophy, music that was moral argument. But here's the strange part. Vienna didn't care. Don Giovanni reached Vienna in May 1788. The emperor attended. He found it too complex. Too many notes for my Viennese, he reportedly told Wolfgang. The city that had embraced Die Entführung found Don Giovanni difficult, disturbing. The contrast was devastating. Prague worshipped him. Vienna had moved on. Wolfgang was 32 years old. He'd written two of the greatest operas in history, and he was losing his audience. Money was tighter than ever. The subscription concerts had essentially ended. Aristocratic patrons were distracted by the growing war with Turkey. Emperor Joseph needed funds for military campaigns, not court entertainment. Wolfgang tried everything. He organized benefit concerts. He published piano variations. He took students, though he hated teaching. Nothing generated enough income. The letters to Michael Puchberg began in 1788. Puchberg was a fellow mason, a merchant with money. Wolfgang wrote to him constantly, begging, hundreds of florins at a time, promising repayment that never came. The letters are painful to read. Wolfgang's desperation, his shame, his inability to stop spending even as he begged. He needed to maintain appearances. If he seemed poor, commissions would stop entirely, so he borrowed to seem successful, which required more borrowing. In summer 1788, the family moved to cheaper lodgings in the suburbs, the Alsergrund district, far from the fashionable centre. Wolfgang tried to present it as a choice. More space, fresher air, but everyone knew the truth. That summer, isolated in the suburbs, Wolfgang composed 3 symphonies, numbers 39, 40, and 41. In 6 weeks. These weren't commissions, no one had requested them. Wolfgang simply wrote them, perhaps for future concerts that never materialized, perhaps because he couldn't not write them. Symphony number 40 in G minor is one of the most famous pieces of music ever written. The opening melody is known worldwide. It's urgent, anxious, relentlessly driving forward. Every moment of financial panic, every fear about the future seems to pulse through it. Symphony number 41, later nicknamed Jupiter, is the opposite. Massive, confident, triumphant. The finale weaves 5 themes into a fugue of staggering complexity. It's a display of compositional mastery that no contemporary could match. Wolfgang wrote these masterpieces while begging friends for rent money. The contrast defines his final years. Artistic immortality, daily humiliation. In June 1788, their 4th child died at 6 months old. Theresia. They'd lost 3 of 5 children now, Only Karl and baby Johann survived. Constanze's health was failing. She needed expensive spa treatments. Wolfgang sent her to Baden while he stayed in Vienna, working, borrowing, trying to keep their finances from complete collapse. He was alone in the apartment, writing to Puchberg, composing, waiting for commissions that came rarely. When they did come, they were often trivial. Dance music for court balls. Wolfgang, who'd written Don Giovanni, reduced to providing background music for aristocrats to waltz to. He composed the dances, perfectly crafted, like everything he wrote, but the humiliation must have been extraordinary. In 1789, a possibility emerged. Prince Karl Lichnowsky invited Wolfgang to join him on a trip to Berlin. The Prussian court was wealthy, cultured. King Friedrich Wilhelm II was a music lover. Perhaps Wolfgang could find a position there, better than Vienna's indifference. They travelled in April, Dresden first, where Wolfgang played for the Elector of Saxony, Leipzig, where he played Bach's organ at St. Thomas Church, Potsdam finally, for an audience with the king. Friedrich Wilhelm was impressed. He commissioned 6 string quartets and 6 piano sonatas, promised payment, hinted at a court position. Wolfgang returned to Vienna energized. The commissions meant money. The possibility of a Berlin post meant security. Perhaps everything was turning around. It wasn't. The king's payment was delayed, then reduced. The promised position never materialized. Wolfgang had spent money traveling that he didn't have. The debts were worse. He composed one of the commissioned quartets, the Prussian quartets, as they'd be called, but he couldn't finish the set. Other commissions, more urgent, intervened. In August 1789, Constanze was pregnant again, their 6th child. Wolfgang was terrified. Another mouth to feed. More medical expenses, the cycle continuing. He wrote to Puchberg again. And again. The amounts requested grew larger. 200 florins, 300. The desperation in the letters intensified. In November 1789, their daughter Anna was born. She died within an hour. Wolfgang's letters from this period barely mention it. He was too numb, too overwhelmed. Death had become routine. Then, strangely, a success. January 1790. Joseph II, despite his earlier coolness, commissioned a new opera, Cosi fan tutte. All women are like that. Another collaboration with Da Ponte. The subject was cynical. 2 men test their fiancé's fidelity by disguising themselves and attempting seduction. The women fail the test. Everyone's exposed as capable of betrayal. After Don Giovanni's moral grandeur, Cosi seemed trivial. A game, but Wolfgang needed the money. And he found something in the story. A sadness beneath the comedy. A recognition that people are weak, that love is fragile, that we hurt each other despite our best intentions. The music is exquisite. The ensembles rival Figaro's complexity. The arias reveal psychological nuance that the plot doesn't explicitly contain. January 26th, 1790. The premiere at the Berg Theatre. Modest success. 5 performances before the opera season ended. Then Joseph II died. February 20th, 1790. The emperor who had brought Wolfgang to Vienna, who had commissioned his operas, who had represented enlightenment and artistic patronage. Gone. His successor, Leopold II, cared nothing for German opera or for Wolfgang. The court position Wolfgang held, which paid nothing anyway, was eliminated. The commission stopped. Wolfgang was 34, unemployed, drowning in debt, with a wife and 2 surviving children. Every established musician in Vienna had secure positions. Salieri was still imperial Kapellmeister. Dittersdorf had a comfortable court job. Even mediocre composers had sinecures. Wolfgang had nothing. In September 1790, Leopold II was crowned in Frankfurt. Wolfgang travelled there uninvited, hoping to gain the new emperor's attention. He gave a concert. Almost no one attended. He returned to Vienna more desperate than ever. Then October 1790, salvation appeared, or seemed to. A stranger visited Wolfgang's apartment. Dressed in grey, refusing to give his name, he offered a commission, a Requiem Mass, for a generous fee. But the stranger had conditions. Wolfgang must tell no one who commissioned it. He must work quickly, and he must never attempt to discover the patron's identity. It was theatrical, mysterious. Wolfgang, exhausted and desperate, didn't question it. He agreed. The stranger left a payment, promised more on completion, and vanished. Wolfgang began working on the Requiem immediately. But other commissions intervened, an opera for Prague, a cantata for a lodge ceremony. He put the Requiem aside. What he didn't know was the stranger's identity. Count Franz von Wolsegg, a minor aristocrat who commissioned works from composers, then performed them as his own. The Requiem was intended for Wolsegg's dead wife. He'd hired Wolfgang as a ghostwriter, literally. But Wolfgang didn't know this, and the mysterious circumstances would later fuel legends that he was writing his own death mass. Through winter 1790 and spring 1791, Wolfgang composed frantically. The Prague opera, La Clemenza di Tito, the Magic Flute for Emanuel Schikaneder's theatre, smaller commissions, anything that paid. He was exhausted. His health, never robust, was deteriorating, but he couldn't stop. Each commission was the difference between survival and complete financial collapse. The Magic Flute premiered September 30th, 1791. It was Wolfgang's last opera, and it was unlike anything he'd written before. The Magic Flute is Mozart's farewell to the world, though he didn't know it yet. September 30th, 1791. The Theatre of der Wieden. Not the refined Berg Theatre where his Italian operas premiered. This was Emanuel Schikaneder's house, a suburban venue, popular, rowdy, for ordinary people, not aristocrats. Schikaneder was Wolfgang's friend from Salzburg days, an actor, singer, impresario. He'd commissioned this opera, and he'd written the libretto himself. A wild mix of fairy tale, Masonic allegory, low comedy, and spiritual quest. Two lovers, a prince and a princess, trials they must endure. A villain who's not actually a villain, a hero who must learn wisdom. Magic instruments, fantastic creatures, spoken dialogue alternating with sublime music. It made no sense. And yet it made perfect sense. Wolfgang poured everything into it. His Masonic beliefs, his love of Mozart's father's moral instruction, his gift for melody, his ability to write for every level of listener, from the simplest folk tune to the most complex fugue. The Queen of the Night's Vengeance aria, 2 high Fs, notes almost impossible to sing. Fireworks of coloratura, rage made audible. Sarastro's arias, deep, resonant, noble, the embodiment of enlightened wisdom. Papageno the bird-catcher, Schikaneder's role, comic, earthy, singing about simple pleasures, finding a wife, eating, drinking, the human element amid all the symbolism, and Tamino and Pamina, the lovers who achieve transcendence through trial. Their music tender, pure. The overture begins with 3 chords. The Masonic number, E flat major, 3 flats, everything in 3s, the entire opera structured around Masonic ritual and number symbolism. But you don't need to know any of this to love it. Children adore the Magic Flute. They respond to Papageno's antics, the magic bells, the fantastic adventure. Adults find deeper meanings, or simply surrender to the beauty. Wolfgang conducted the premiere himself. Schikaneder sang Papageno. The audience loved it immediately. For once, Wolfgang had a genuine popular success. Not a succès d'estime, not respectful applause from connoisseurs, real enthusiasm from ordinary people who return night after night. By the end of October, 30 performances. Wolfgang attended many of them. He brought Salieri. Even his rival acknowledged the opera's quality. They sat in a box together, Wolfgang pointing out details he was particularly proud of. For a few weeks, Wolfgang was happy. The Magic Flute was earning money. Audiences were enthusiastic. Perhaps things would turn around, but his health was failing. He'd been sick throughout the composition. Fevers, exhaustion, his hands swelling so badly he could barely hold a pen. And the Requiem, the mysterious commission. Still unfinished, the stranger in grey had returned, asking about progress. Wolfgang promised to complete it soon. November 1791. Wolfgang was bedridden more often than not, but he continued working. The Requiem consumed him. He'd completed the introit, the Kyrie, begun the sequence, Dies Irae, Day of Wrath, the medieval text describing Judgment Day, terror and supplication. Wolfgang's setting is overwhelming. Fury and fear, the wrath of God made audible. Then the Recordare, remember, merciful Jesus, tenderness after terror. He worked in bed, manuscripts spread around him. Constanze watched, frightened. He was grey, weak, but driven. He told her he was writing the Requiem for himself, that he wouldn't live to finish it. She tried to comfort him, told him he was imagining things, but she was terrified. Franz Süssmayr, a student, helped with the orchestration. Wolfgang dictated passages, explained his intentions for sections not yet composed, early December. Wolfgang rallied slightly, enough to receive visitors. His sister-in-law Sophie came, found him trying to sing through the Requiem with Süssmayr and another friend. When they reached the Lacrimosa, the section about tears, Wolfgang put down his score. He began crying. He said he wouldn't finish it. December 4th, 1791. Wolfgang's condition worsened dramatically. Fever, swelling throughout his body. He couldn't move his limbs. Multiple doctors attended him. They diagnosed different illnesses, prescribed contradictory treatments, bled him, applied cold compresses. Nothing helped. Constanze lay in bed beside him, trying to warm his cold body with her own. He remained lucid. He gave instructions about the Requiem, told Süssmayr how to complete it, hummed passages that existed only in his mind. Shortly before midnight, he tried to sing the drum passage from the Requiem. The sound that emerges from his throat was barely audible. 5 minutes before 1 in the morning, December 5th, 1791, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart died. He was 35 years old. The cause of death was recorded as severe miliary fever. Modern medical analysis suggests rheumatic fever, or kidney failure, or a dozen other possibilities. The truth is lost. What happened next is almost worse than the death itself. Mozart died poor. The apartment was rented. There were debts. Constanze, devastated and practical, couldn't afford an expensive funeral. December 6th, St. Stephen's Cathedral, a simple blessing. Third-class funeral, the cheapest available. No one accompanied the body to the cemetery. This was normal for third-class burials. The coffin was taken by hearse to St. Mark's Cemetery, outside the city walls. There Wolfgang's body was placed in a common grave. Not a pauper's grave, despite legend, but a shared plot where multiple coffins were buried together. No headstone, no marker, no way to identify the specific location. Within years, no one could say exactly where Mozart was buried. The spot was lost. This wasn't neglect, it was standard practice, but it seems unbearable. The greatest composer who ever lived, buried anonymously. Constanze survived him by 51 years. She remarried a Danish diplomat named Georg Nissen, who helped her compile Mozart's biography. She became fiercely protective of Wolfgang's legacy. She sold his manuscripts, published his letters, promoted his music. She ensured he wouldn't be forgotten. The Requiem was completed by Süssmayr using Wolfgang's sketches and instructions. It's impossible to say exactly where Mozart ends and Süssmayr begins. The Lacrimosa breaks off after 8 measures. Everything after is reconstruction. Some scholars hate this. They want to separate the authentic from the completed. Others argue the Requiem as we know it fulfills Wolfgang's intentions as closely as possible. It's become one of the most performed works in the choral repertoire, the Dies Irae especially, that vision of Judgment Day, fury and terror giving way to mercy. Perhaps Wolfgang did write his own death mass, not intentionally, but the Requiem became his memorial, the music he left unfinished speaking for him. What remains? 626 works in the Koschel catalogue. Though that number keeps changing as scholars discover, authenticate, and sometimes deattribute pieces. Operas that are still performed constantly: Figaro, Don Giovanni, Magic Flute, Cosi, even the earlier works, Idomeneo, The Abduction from the Seraglio, symphonies that redefined what the symphony could be. The final three especially, 39, 40, 41, each one perfect, each one completely different from the others. Concertos, 27 for piano, 5 for violin, others for various instruments, each one a dialogue between soloist and orchestra, each one singing. Chamber music, string quartets dedicated to Haydn, string quintets that expand the quartet's possibilities, clarinet quintet, oboe quartet, wind serenades, church music, masses, motets, the C minor mass unfinished, the Requiem completed by another hand, songs, arias, dances, divertimentos, music for every occasion, from the sublime to the trivial, all of it bearing his unmistakable stamp. What makes it Mozart? That's the question everyone asks, and no one can fully answer. The melodies. Obviously, no one wrote more beautiful melodies, tunes that lodge in your mind after one hearing, that children can sing, that reveal new depths each time you encounter them. But it's more than melody, the harmony. Wolfgang's progressions are surprising, unexpected. They move in directions other composers didn't imagine, creating emotional effects that seem inevitable only after you've heard them. The orchestration. Wolfgang knew exactly what each instrument could do. He wrote parts that sit perfectly under the fingers, that sing. Every voice in a Mozart score matters, even the second violin, even the viola, the architecture. Mozart's forms are perfect. Sonata form, rondo, theme and variations. He worked within established structures, but he made them feel spontaneous, natural, as though the music couldn't have unfolded any other way. And something else, something harder to define, an emotional directness. Wolfgang's music speaks. It doesn't require explanation. You hear it and you feel something. Joy, sorrow, longing, transcendence. Einstein called Mozart's music the most perfect balance between form and content. Barth said it was the freedom of human beings, before God and in God, but also in the world and in time. These are attempts to capture something that resists capture, the specific quality that makes Mozart Mozart. Perhaps it's simpler. Wolfgang was human, completely, messily human. He knew every emotion. He'd experienced triumph and humiliation, love and loss, joy and despair, and he could transmute all of it into sound, into music that speaks directly to something essential in us. Beethoven transformed music. He expanded its possibilities, pushed it into new territories. His influence shaped everything that came after. Wagner created a new art form, total theatre, Gesamtkunstwerk. He changed how we think about opera, drama, even philosophy. Bach revealed the mathematical perfection underlying music, the architecture of sound, the spiritual made audible through structure. Mozart did none of these things. He didn't revolutionize. He didn't innovate in obvious ways. He didn't push boundaries. He simply wrote perfect music in forms that already existed, for audiences that already existed. He took what was there and made it transcendent. That's harder than revolution. Anyone can break rules. Wolfgang mastered them, then created beauty within the mastery. Listen to the slow movement of the Piano Concerto number 23, a major, key 488, the Adagio, F-sharp minor, an unusual key for Mozart. The music moves slowly, inexorably. The piano sings a melody of such piercing sadness. The orchestra responds with compassion. It's simple, harmonically straightforward. Nothing unusual happens technically, and yet it breaks your heart every time. That's Mozart, or the Laudate Dominum from the Solemn Vespers. Key 339, a soprano solo, praising God. The melody floats, effortless, supported by strings and organ. Pure beauty, no virtuosity, no showing off. Just a human voice lifted in praise, transcendent. Or the finale of the Jupiter Symphony. 41. Key of 5-5-1. 5 themes combined in a fugue. Counterpoint of staggering complexity. But it doesn't sound complex. It sounds joyful, triumphant. The culmination of everything the symphony has been building toward. Technical mastery in service of expression. That's the Mozart paradox. The music feels spontaneous, natural, as though it simply flowed from him without effort. We know that's not true. The manuscripts show corrections, revisions, careful work, but the final result erases all traces of labour. Like watching a great athlete. The movements seem effortless. Only other athletes recognise the years of training, the discipline, the pain. Wolfgang's gift was making the difficult sound easy, making the complex feel simple, making the profound seem natural. He died young, 35. Imagine what he might have written if he'd lived to Haydn's age. 77. Another 40 years of composition. We have Haydn's late masses, his late string quartets, the Creation, the Seasons, masterpieces created in old age. We have Beethoven's late quartets, the Ninth Symphony, the Missa Solemnis, works that pushed into new territory. We have Verdi's Otello and Falstaff, composed in his 70s, summations of a lifetime. What would Mozart's old age have brought? We'll never know. The loss is incalculable, but what he left is enough, more than enough. 626 works, 35 years, a lifetime's worth of beauty, compressed into too brief time. The music remains perfect, complete, inexhaustible. You can listen your entire life and still discover new depths, new beauties, new moments that stop your breath. The question people ask about Mozart is wrong. They ask, what was his genius? Wrong question. The genius wasn't what, it was how. How did he know exactly where every note belonged? Not through calculation, through instinct. The instinct that comes when craft becomes second nature, when technique disappears into expression. Think about language. You don't consciously construct each sentence. Subject, verb, object, you just speak. The grammar takes care of itself. Your attention is on meaning, on communication. That was Mozart and music. The grammar was automatic, internalized so completely that it vanished, leaving him free to focus on what the music needed to say. Every composer struggles with this, the technical versus the expressive. How do I write this chord progression? Where does this melody go? What key should this modulate to? Mozart didn't struggle. The answers were obvious to him, self-evident, which freed him to ask deeper questions. What does this character feel? What does this moment require? How do I make someone understand this emotion? The technical mastery enabled the artistic achievement. But there's something else, something harder to define. Wolfgang understood balance, not just musical balance, emotional balance, human balance. His operas contain profound darkness. Don Giovanni drags the Don to hell. The Queen of the Night plots murder. Despair, rage, vengeance, cruelty. He didn't shy from these, but he never let them dominate. Darkness exists alongside light, sorrow alongside joy, complexity alongside simplicity. This isn't compromise, it's wisdom. Life isn't one thing, it's contradictions held in tension. Mozart's music reflects this, honours it. Listen to the finale of Don Giovanni. The Don refuses to repent. Stone guest drags him to hell. Flames, demons, chorus of the damned, terrifying music. Then immediately, the remaining characters step forward. They sing an ensemble. Light, major key. Life goes on. The world continues. Some directors hate this ending. They cut the final ensemble, leave the audience with hell and damnation. More dramatic, more unified in tone. But Mozart knew better. Life doesn't end when the villain dies. The survivors continue. They pick up the pieces. They make sense of what happened. They move forward, including both moments, the tragic and the comic, the terrifying and the mundane, create something more true than either could alone. This is Mozart's understanding of the human condition. We contain multitudes. We're not one emotion, one state, one tone. We shift. We contradict ourselves. We feel joy and sorrow simultaneously. His music accommodates this, makes room for it. The Piano Concerto No. 24, C minor, K491, one of only 2 minor key piano concertos he wrote. Dark, stormy. The opening movement churns with anxiety. The slow movement offers brief respite, consolation, but fragile, temporary. Then the finale, variations, still in minor, but some variations dance, some find humour, not denial of the darkness, coexistence with it. That concerto is unbearably sad and somehow life-affirming, both at once. Or take the clarinet quintet, Key 581, Mozart's last year. He knew he was dying. The music knows it too. There's autumnal beauty, a sense of farewell, of things ending, but also warmth, contentment, acceptance, the slow movement especially. The clarinet sings, the strings support. It's peaceful, not tragic, not resigned, at peace. How do you write music like that when you're dying? When you're poor? When your life is falling apart? You understand that your circumstances don't define the full range of human experience. You can be dying and still find beauty, still create it, still offer it to others. Wolfgang did this until the very end. The Requiem, unfinished, literally. He died while writing it. His student Susmayer completed it. We argue endlessly about which parts are Mozart's, which are Susmayer's. The truth is probably both. Mozart left sketches, instructions, Susmayer filled them out. But the opening, the introit, the Kyrie fugue, definitely Mozart. You hear death, judgment, fear. The text demands it. Dies Irae, day of wrath. But you also hear hope, the Recordare, remember, merciful Jesus. The melody pleads, gently, not demanding, asking. The music trusts that mercy is possible. A man dying, penniless, abandoned by many who should have helped, writing music about death and judgment. And he includes mercy, hope, tenderness. That's not denial. It's not false optimism. It's clear-eyed acknowledgement of reality. Death comes, judgment may come, and still, mercy exists, love exists, beauty exists. The Requiem is incomplete. We'll never know exactly how Wolfgang intended to finish it, but what exists is enough to show his state of mind at the end. Facing death, creating beauty. Think about that. Your body is failing, you know it, you can feel it, each day weaker than the last. You have a wife and children who depend on you. No money, no security, no certainty about what happens after you're gone. And you sit at your desk, and you write music for your own funeral mass because someone commissioned it. And you need the money. And you're a craftsman, you fulfill your commissions, even when the commission is your own death. The discipline of the work, the habit of creation. These carried him to the end. He didn't write a final masterpiece summing up his life. No grand statement, no last testament. He was working on 3 pieces when he died. The Requiem, a cantata, a concerto, all incomplete, working until he couldn't work anymore. That's how an artist dies, not with proclamations, with half-finished manuscripts. After Mozart died, the funeral was simple, cheap, third-class burial, the body taken to St. Mark's Cemetery outside Vienna, buried in an unmarked grave, common grave, with others. We don't know exactly where. The location was lost. Constanza didn't attend the funeral. This has bothered people. They judge her. How could she not attend her husband's funeral? But she was sick. The weather was terrible. She had 2 small children, no money, and 18th century funerals weren't like ours. The body was gone. The person already gone. The funeral was ritual, formality. Some think she was callous, unfeeling. The evidence suggests otherwise. She spent the rest of her life protecting his legacy, publishing his works, promoting his music, making sure the world remembered. She remarried. Georg Nikolaus Nissen, a Danish diplomat, stable, secure. He helped her compile Mozart's biography. They worked on it together for years. After Nissen died, Constanza continued. She lived until 1842. 80. Outlived Wolfgang by 50 years. She made sure the world didn't forget. Without her efforts, we might have lost works, manuscripts scattered, sold, destroyed. She gathered them, protected them, made sure they survived. The story of Wolfgang's burial, the unmarked grave, the lost location, this has become symbolic. The unappreciated genius, cast aside by an ungrateful world. It's not quite accurate. Vienna knew his value, mourned his loss. The theatre where his operas played closed in respect. Newspapers praised him. Memorial concerts were held. But yes, the burial was cheap. Because there was no money. That's not symbolic, that's practical. And the loss of the grave's location, that was normal. Third-class burials were mass graves, reused after a time. Bodies moved. No one tracked individual locations. It wasn't specific to Mozart. It was standard practice. We want the story to mean something. The genius buried in an unmarked grave. Society's indifference. The tragedy. Sometimes, things just are what they are. A poor man died. Was buried as poor men were buried. The world moved on. Except the music didn't move on. It stayed. Grew. Spread. Within a generation, Mozart was recognized as one of the greatest composers who ever lived. The music that had been popular during his lifetime became eternal. The operas that had filled theatres became permanent repertoire. The symphonies that had been entertainment became monuments. Beethoven revered him, studied his scores, learned from them. When Beethoven wrote his early piano concertos, he was writing Mozart concertos, trying to match what Wolfgang had achieved. Later he moved beyond Mozart, found his own voice, but he never forgot the foundation. What he'd learned from those perfect structures. Chopin worshipped Mozart, played the concertos throughout his life, taught them to his students. When asked about his own playing, he said he tried to play like Mozart, clean, clear, no excess, pure expression. Wagner hated Mozart's operas, publicly. He found them frivolous, unserious, not mythic enough, not German enough, but privately, he studied them, used their techniques, the orchestration, the pacing, the balance of voices. He took what he needed, then criticized the source. Brahms loved Mozart, called him the greatest, studied the scores endlessly. When Brahms wrote his own Requiem, he was thinking about Mozart's, different in conception, but the shadow is there. Every composer since has had to contend with Mozart, accept him, reject him, learn from him, react against him. Doesn't matter. You can't ignore him. The music is too good, too complete, too perfect in what it attempts. And here's the strange thing. It doesn't age. Baroque music sounds baroque. You hear the period, the style, the conventions of the time. Romantic music sounds romantic, lush, emotional, specific to its era. Modern music sounds modern, angular, experimental, reacting against what came before. Mozart's music sounds like music. Just music. It could have been written yesterday. It could have been written 1,000 years ago. It exists outside time somehow. This isn't because it's simple, it's because it's essential. He found something fundamental, the basic elements of musical expression: melody, harmony, rhythm, structure, combined in ways that speak directly to human perception, human emotion. No mediation needed, no historical context required. You don't need to understand sonata form. You don't need to know what a tonic chord is. You don't need any training. You just listen, and you understand. That's rarer than you think. Most great art requires context. You need to know what came before, what the artist was reacting against, what innovations they introduced. Mozart's music doesn't require this. It helps, deepens appreciation, but it's not necessary. The music communicates directly. A child can hear it and respond. Someone who's never heard classical music can hear it and respond. Someone from a completely different musical tradition can hear it and respond. Because it's not about style, it's about substance. The emotions are real. The structures are sound. The beauty is inherent. This is what survives. What lasts, what continues to matter centuries later. Not innovation, not revolution, not pushing boundaries. Truth, beauty, perfection of expression. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart gave us this. 626 works, 35 years, a lifetime compressed. The music plays in concert halls, opera houses, churches, recording studios, living rooms, headphones, everywhere. It will continue, long after we're gone, long after everyone alive now is forgotten. Because some things are permanent, some achievements transcend their moment. Mozart created beauty that cannot be destroyed, cannot be diminished, cannot be improved upon. It simply is. Perfect, complete, eternal. And that is enough. January 1791. Vienna. The commission arrives. A stranger in grey wants a requiem, mass for the dead. Doesn't give his name. Offers money. Good money. More than Mozart usually gets. Mozart accepts. He's desperate. Debts piling up. Constanza sick. Bills unpaid. He needs every florin he can get. The stranger says he'll return. Leaves half the payment. Disappears into the winter streets. Mozart begins writing. He's working on other things. The Magic Flute. La Clemenza di Tito. Concert pieces. Teaching. But the Requiem haunts him. He returns to it. Late at night, when everyone else is asleep. The music that emerges is unlike anything he's written. Dark, searching, profound. Not theatrical darkness, real darkness. The confrontation with mortality, with judgment, with the end of everything. The introitus, Requiem aeternam, grant them eternal rest. The opening is barely audible, whispered. The strings murmur, the basset horns enter. Those low clarinets. Mozart loved their sound, used them constantly in his final years. They suggest something beyond words, beyond life. Then the choir, 4 voices, moving together, asking for mercy, for light, for peace. It's prayer, real prayer, not the decorative religion of his earlier masses. Something desperate, necessary. The dies irae, day of wrath, the judgment day. Mozart sets it as terror, absolute terror. The choir shouts, the strings slash, the timpani thunder. This is the end of the world, not metaphorical, actual, the dissolution of everything. What comes after death? What waits on the other side? Mozart is writing his own judgment, his own reckoning. He knows it. Everyone around him knows it. Constanza begs him to stop. You're making yourself sick. You're obsessing. Leave it alone. He can't. The music won't let him. September, he collapses, can't get out of bed, swelling in his hands, his feet, pain everywhere. The doctors don't know what's wrong. They never do. They try treatments, Bloodletting, purgatives, nothing helps. He gets worse. October, brief recovery. He finishes the Magic Flute, conducts the premiere. It's a triumph. The audience loves it, but he's exhausted, can barely stand. Returns home, back to bed, back to the Requiem. He's racing now, against time, against his own body. He knows he won't finish, can't finish, but he has to try. He calls for his student, Franz Xaver Süssmayr, explains what he wants, how the section should go, the orchestration, the structure. Süssmayr writes it down, takes notes, tries to understand. Mozart is specific, detailed. This isn't improvisation. He knows exactly what the music should be. He just doesn't have time to write it all. November. Worse, much worse. The swelling spreads, fever, delirium, moments of clarity, then confusion. He asks for the score, studies it in bed, hums the parts, explains more to Süssmayr, then drifts away again. December. The first week. He knows it's ending. Calls friends to his bedside. They sing through the Requiem. The parts he's completed. Mozart takes the alto line. His voice is weak, but he sings. Lacrimosa. Day of tears. The moment of weeping. They reach measure 8. Mozart stops. Can't continue. The tears aren't musical anymore. They're real. He'll never finish this. The greatest piece he's conceived, the deepest music he's ever written, will remain incomplete. December 4th, late afternoon. Consciousness fading. Constanze beside him. A few friends. The doctor. Mozart tries to explain something. About the Requiem. About how it should end. No one understands. The words don't make sense. Evening. He's still fighting. Trying to stay. Trying to finish what he started. But the body has limits. The mind has limits. Even Mozart's. 55 minutes. Past midnight. December 5th. 1791. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart dies. He's 35 years old. The Requiem sits on his desk, unfinished. The funeral is small, cheap, third-class burial. No one attends the actual interment, not even Constanze. It's raining, cold, December in Vienna. The body goes into a common grave, St. Mark's Cemetery. Outside the city walls, multiple bodies, no individual marker, no monument. The greatest composer who ever lived, buried like a pauper, because he died like a pauper. Everything he created, everything he achieved. Couldn't pay the bills, couldn't secure his future, couldn't save him from an unmarked grave. Süssmayr finishes the Requiem, uses Mozart's notes, his instructions, his sketches, does his best. It's not perfect. Scholars argue about it. What's Mozart? What's Süssmayr? Where one ends, where the other begins, doesn't matter really. The piece exists, gets performed, becomes one of the most famous works in the repertoire. People hear it, feel it, the confrontation with death, the plea for mercy, the hope for light. Mozart's final statement, even incomplete, even finished by another hand, it's his. The truth is there, the power is there, the music is there. That's what survives. Not the man, not the body, not the grave no one can find. The music, only the music. Constanze is left with debts. 2 young sons, no income. She does what she can, organises concerts, sells manuscripts, tries to collect what Mozart was owed. It's not enough, never enough. She eventually remarries to a Danish diplomat, Georg Nissen. He's kind to her, helps raise the boys, helps preserve Mozart's legacy. They write a biography together, gather letters, documents, memories, trying to capture who Mozart was, what he meant. It's incomplete, like everything about Mozart, full of gaps, contradictions, things no one can verify. But it's something, a record, a testament. The sons grow up, neither becomes a composer. Franz Xaver tries, has some talent, but he's not his father, could never be his father. Lives in that shadow his whole life, performs his father's music, teaches, fades into obscurity. Carl August doesn't even try. Becomes a civil servant, respectable, stable, everything his father wasn't. Has children, grandchildren. The line continues, but the genius doesn't. Doesn't work that way. Can't be inherited, can't be passed down. Mozart was singular. What happened in him? The way his mind worked, the music that poured out. You can't replicate that, can't reproduce it, can only witness it, study it, try to understand it. The manuscripts scatter. Some are sold, some are lost, some end up in libraries, museums, private collections, each one precious, each one a window into how he worked. The corrections, the revisions, the moments of inspiration, the Köchel catalogue, published 61 years after Mozart's death. Ludwig von Köchel, Austrian botanist, music scholar, spent years tracking down every Mozart work, authenticating, organizing, numbering, K1 through K, 626. A life's work catalogued, made systematic, made knowable. We can see the progression now, the development, boy to man, apprentice to master, early works to late works. The arc is visible, the growth is clear. The genius was always there, but it refined itself, deepened, became more concentrated, more essential. The operas endure. Figaro, Don Giovanni, Cosi fan tutte, the Magic Flute, performed constantly, everywhere, in every language, every interpretation. They can't be killed, can't be exhausted. Directors reinvent them, singers reinterpret them, conductors find new tempos, new balances, new meanings. The music accommodates everything, survives everything, because it's built on truth, human truth. The emotions are real, the characters are real, the situations are real. Strip away the period costumes, the formal conventions, the 18th century manners. What remains is us, our desires, our fears, our capacity for love and cruelty and forgiveness. Mozart knew people, understood them. Put that understanding into music, that's why it lasts. The symphonies, 41 of them, the late ones especially. 39, 40, 41, Jupiter, perfect structures, perfect proportions, perfect expression. You can study them forever, find new details, new connections, new beauties. They never exhaust themselves. The concertos, piano, violin, clarinet, horn, flute, each one a world, each one complete. The relationship between soloist and orchestra, competition and cooperation, individual and collective. Mozart understood this, made it musical, made it profound. The chamber music, string quartets, quintets, the clarinet quintet, intimate, personal. 4 or 5 voices in conversation, equal, balanced, listening to each other, responding. This is civilization in sound. People talking, actually listening, finding harmony, the sacred music, masses, motets, the Requiem. Even here, even in religious forms, Mozart is human. The faith is real, but it's faith tested by doubt, strengthened by questioning, made deeper by struggle, not easy belief, earned belief. 233 years since his death. The music hasn't dimmed, hasn't dated, hasn't lost power. If anything, it's grown, become more central, more necessary, because we need beauty, need perfection, need proof that human beings can create something beyond themselves. Mozart is that proof. A man who lived badly, died young, made terrible decisions, wasted money, offended people, failed at almost everything except the one thing that mattered, the music, that he got right, completely right. So right that nothing can touch it, time can't erode it, fashion can't diminish it, criticism can't defeat it. It simply is, perfect, true, eternal. Students study him, try to understand how he did it, the voice leading, the harmonic progressions, the structural proportions. They analyze, dissect, measure, find patterns, find techniques, find methods, but they can't find the source, can't locate where the beauty comes from. It's not in the notes themselves, not in the chords, not in the forms. It's somewhere else, somewhere unreachable. The mystery remains. We have the scores, we have the letters, we have the biographies, we have everything except the thing that matters most. The spark, the gift, the genius, that died with him. Can't be recovered, can't be explained, can only be experienced. Through the music, always through the music. Listen to the clarinet concerto, the second movement, the slow movement. The clarinet sings, long phrases, arching, falling, rising again. The orchestra supports, doesn't intrude, just holds space, creates context. The melody is simple. Nothing complex, nothing virtuosic, just beauty, pure beauty. You can feel it. Physical reaction. The throat tightens, the eyes sting. Not because it's sad. It's not sad, it's perfect. And perfection breaks something in us. Reminds us what we're capable of, what we could be, what we rarely are. Mozart shows us the possible, not the easy, not the common, the possible, what human beings can achieve when everything aligns, talent and training, effort and inspiration, discipline and freedom. It happened once, in him. Might never happen again, but it happened. The proof exists. 626 works, some fragments, some incomplete, some lost, but hundreds remain, complete, whole, perfect. They're not going anywhere, can't be destroyed, can't be forgotten. As long as people exist, as long as we have ears to hear, hearts to feel, minds to understand, Mozart's music will exist, will speak, will move us. This is immortality, not fame, not reputation, not memory, creation, making something that outlasts you, that continues after you're gone, that carries meaning forward into the future, into eternity. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart did this, a child from Salzburg, a man from Vienna, a composer who died young, poor, forgotten by many who knew him, but who left behind something that cannot die, will not die. The music plays now, tomorrow, forever. That's the gift, that's the legacy, that's what matters. Not the life, not the struggle, not the tragedy, the beauty, the truth, the perfection. It's enough, more than enough, it's everything. December 1791. The Requiem sits unfinished, Mozart's hand too weak to hold the pen. Süssmayr takes dictation, writes what Mozart hums, what Mozart explains between waves of fever. The lacrimosa breaks off after 8 bars. Mozart knows he won't write more, knows someone else will finish it. Doesn't matter. The truth is there, in those 8 bars, everything he needed to say about death, about mercy, about the tears that come when we face the end. He dies at 55 minutes past midnight. December 5th. The Requiem incomplete, the Magic Flute still playing to packed houses. La Clemenza di Tito already forgotten, the piano concertos gathering dust. No one knows yet. No one understands what's been lost. A composer died. Vienna had many composers. Life continues. The funeral is December 6th, St. Stephen's Cathedral. Simple blessing. 3rd-class service. Cheapest available. Not because Vienna didn't care, because there's no money. Constanzi is sick. The children are young. The debts are massive. She does what she can afford. Nothing more. No one follows the hearse to St. Mark's Cemetery. This bothers people later. Seems wrong, disrespectful. But it was normal, standard practice for 3rd-class burials. The body goes to a common grave, multiple coffins, no individual markers. Within a decade, no one can say exactly where Mozart is buried. The location is lost. We want this to mean something. The genius in an unmarked grave. Society's ingratitude. The tragedy of unrecognized talent. But Mozart was recognized. Vienna knew his worth, just couldn't save him. Couldn't make him financially stable. Couldn't cure what killed him. Recognition doesn't pay rent. Fame doesn't heal disease. Constanza survives 51 years, remarries, has a good life with Nissen. They compile Mozart's biography, gather letters, protect manuscripts. She makes sure the world doesn't forget, makes sure the music survives. Without her, we might have lost works, scores scattered, sold, destroyed. She gathered them, preserved them, made them permanent. The sons grow up without their father. Karl becomes a civil servant. Franz tries music, has some talent, not enough, lives in the shadow, performs his father's works, never escapes them, never becomes his own person. The genius doesn't pass down, can't be inherited. Mozart was singular. The music spreads, slowly at first, then faster. By 1800, he's recognized as one of the greatest. By 1850, he's performed everywhere. By 1900, he's fundamental. The composer other composers study, learn from, measure themselves against. Beethoven revered him. Chopin worshipped him. Brahms studied him endlessly. Wagner publicly dismissed him, privately stole from him. Every generation rediscovers Mozart, finds something new, something essential. The Romantics heard passion. The Classicists heard structure. The moderns heard innovation. Everyone hears truth. The music doesn't change. We change. Bring different ears, different needs, different questions. Mozart answers all of them. Because he wasn't writing for his time, wasn't writing for any time, was writing music, just music, the essential elements, melody, harmony, rhythm, form, combined perfectly, inevitably, eternally. 233 years later, the music hasn't aged. Doesn't sound old, doesn't sound dated, sounds like music, pure music. A child hears it and responds. Someone who's never heard classical music responds. Someone from a completely different culture responds. Because Mozart found something universal, something that speaks directly to human perception, human emotion. No mediation required, no context necessary. You just listen. You understand. You feel. This is rarer than you think. Most art requires context. You need to know the period, the influences, the innovations, what the artist was reacting against. Mozart doesn't require this, helps to know, deepens appreciation, but not necessary. The beauty is inherent. The truth is self-evident. The perfection is obvious. Scholars try to explain it, the voice leading, the harmonic progressions, the structural proportions. They analyze, dissect, measure, find patterns, find techniques, but can't find the source, can't locate where the beauty comes from. It's not in the notes, not in the chords, not in the forms. It's somewhere else, somewhere unreachable. The mystery remains. We have everything about Mozart, except what matters most, the spark, the gift, the thing that made him Mozart. That died with him, can't be recovered, can't be replicated, can only be witnessed. Through the music, always through the music. 626 works, some lost, some incomplete, some fragments, but hundreds survive, complete, perfect, whole. They're not going anywhere, can't be destroyed, can't be forgotten. As long as humans have ears, hearts, minds, Mozart's music will exist, will speak, will matter. This is immortality, not fame, not reputation, not historical importance, creation, making something that outlasts you, that continues after you're gone, that carries meaning forward. Mozart did this. A boy from Salzburg, a man from Vienna, dead at 35, poor, buried in an unmarked grave, but who left behind something that cannot die. The music plays in concert halls, opera houses, churches, headphones, everywhere. Will continue, long after we're gone, long after everyone alive now is forgotten. Because some things transcend their moment, some achievements are permanent, some beauty cannot be diminished. Mozart created this, not through revolution, not through innovation, through perfection. He took what existed, the forms, the conventions, the traditions, and made them transcendent, made them eternal, made them necessary. That's harder than breaking rules. Anyone can rebel, can push boundaries, can shock and provoke. Mozart mastered the rules, then created beauty within the mastery. Beauty so complete, so perfect, so true, that nothing can touch it. Listen to the Ave Verum Corpus, 46 bars, 3 minutes, written in 1791. Months before he died, simple, quiet, a hymn for a small church, nothing ambitious, nothing virtuosic, just beauty, pure beauty. The voices move, the strings support, everything in perfect balance, perfect proportion, perfect peace. That's Mozart, not the symphonies, not the operas, not the big works everyone knows. The small perfect thing, the moment of grace, the glimpse of something beyond ourselves. He gave us this 626 times, in different forms, different scales, different moods, but always the same gift: beauty, truth, perfection. He lived badly, made terrible decisions, wasted money, died young, failed at almost everything except the one thing that mattered: the music, that he got right, completely right, so right that nothing can touch it. Time can't erode it, fashion can't diminish it, criticism can't defeat it. It simply is. Perfect, complete, eternal. And that is enough. More than enough. It's everything.